The Live Financially Savvy podcast was created by Atia, the savvy accountant. She is a CPA, CA, and certified financial educator instructor. She has a passion for building generational wealth and wants to help you and others to do the same. She's created the podcast to help others live financially savvy, lower your debt, and build your net worth using techniques you learned here from others doing amazing things to live financially savvy.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Live Financially Savvy podcast with your host, Atia, aka the Savvy Accountant. And I'm so excited that we are going to be speaking with the Budgetnista herself. Miss Tiffany is going to be on the podcast today, and I'm so excited. For those who know, I started my financial journey really getting serious in January of last year. And I started because I found Tiffany's group and we did the credit challenge. And I joined the challenge and I set my 3 financial goals and I was able to kill them. And after I set my goals, I said that I'm going to meet 3 people. And I gave myself this random goal to meet 3 people, my 3 mentors in my head. And Tiffany was one of them. And randomly, I had no idea how I was going to meet these people, obviously. But she did a speaking engagement at my job. And so I was able to meet her and I got a picture with her. I take all my notes in her Live Richer journal. And so I'm so excited that she agreed to be on the show. If you guys don't know who Tiffany is, I'm going to read her bio for you. But you're definitely going to need to check her out. She's amazing. And so Tiffany, the Budgetnista Aliche, is quickly becoming America's favorite personal finance educator. The Budgetnista is the founder of the Live Richer Challenge and the Dream Catchers, a community with over 500,000 women worldwide that work together to improve their lives through financial education. Tiffany is a best-selling author of books, The 1 Week Budget and the Live Richer Challenge. She gives her financial advice, and she's been featured on Good Morning America, The Today Show, PBS, Time, The New York Times, Essence Magazine, Forbes, Fox, MSNBC, The Real, and she also blogs about her personal finance through the Huffington Post. So without further ado, we are going to get into the interview with Tiffany, the Budgetnista. So, hey, Tiffany, thank you so much for joining. I already read your bio to everybody, but I'd like them to hear about you from you. So if you could just describe yourself and give a little background to the guest.
Sure, Atia. My name is Tiffany Aliche, but I'm much better known as the Budgetnista. And I hopefully am aiming to be America's favorite financial educator. And I teach specifically women how to master their finances. So I was fortunate in that I grew up in a household where money was taught all the time. My father was a CFO and an accountant. He also had 2 degrees in finance. So one was actually in finance and one in economics. And so I grew up in a household where money was talked about all the time. My dad kind of gave us like the book knowledge of money. And my mom, she and my dad had 5 kids. I'm number 2 and 5 girls. And my mom taught us the practical application. Like, this is how you food shop. This is how you negotiate. So I just grew up like in a financially literate household and one where education flowed freely. And so I took that with me and started helping my friends when I was in college and then their friends. And then before I knew it, I was the go-to girl when people had money questions. And then the recession hit and myself, along with almost all of my friends, we lost our jobs. And even now more than ever, we needed that financial education. And so I became the go-to again. And because I didn't have a job, I turned it into a business and called it the Budgetnista.
Awesome. So I know a little bit about your story. So when you said the recession hit, can you talk a little bit? I know that you, by 25 years old, you had amazing credit and you had a home.
Mm-hmm.
And so like when the economics went bad, how were you affected and what steps did you take to like get yourself back up?
When the recession hit, I was both like excited and scared because by then I had already been a teacher for over 10 years and I was a little burnt out. Not the kids, they were awesome because I taught preschool, but like the administration and parents, it can wear on you. And so I was kind of over it, I'm not going to lie. But, at the same time, that was all I knew how to do is teach. I'd never had another job before that. That was my job right out of college. So the recession hit and my school was a nonprofit-based school, so they lost their funding. And so thankfully at the time, I had a lot of savings, a decent amount of savings. I was able to, along with unemployment, kind of like be okay for about a year and a half before it all fell apart. But right before the recession hit and I lost my job, a friend of mine, air quotes friend, he was independently wealthy, or so I thought. And I asked him to teach me how to invest. And he said, okay, the first rule is to invest with someone else's money. So you're going to open up some credit cards and take money off. And I never even knew you could do that. It's called a cash advance, and it is the devil. And so I did it, but I didn't know at the time. I was in my early, this is right after I bought a house. I was 25 when I bought a house, and this happened about 26. And then at 29 is when I lost my job. So I did that, and I took the money off, and he promptly ran away with it. Although we had a contract and all that stuff, but you have to find somebody in order to serve them papers. And so that was I ended up $35,000 in credit card debt. And I didn't want to, so I would say 26, 27, maybe it was closer to that. I didn't want to admit to myself that I hadn't made that mistake. Instead, I put the blame on him. He's the liar. He's the cheater. He's the thief. So really 27 to 28, I just paid the minimum and just tried to chase him down, call everywhere. I mean, I found his mother's number. I found him on Facebook, social media. I tried everything to get my money back. And then finally I said, okay, by the time I was nearly turning 29, I said, Tiffany, you have to take responsibility and do something. And then that's when I lost my job. So now I had credit card debt, which I never had before, a new student loan debt because I'd paid off my undergrad, but now I had my master's, which I got when I was about 26, 27. So now I owed $50,000 for that. This new credit card debt of $35,000, and I had a house, $200,000. So I was nearly $300,000 in debt. And I was like, so how did I go from financially perfect to this right here? Even still, this is why basic financial education is so important, because yes, we all want to make money. I get it. So I see all these people who are teaching, make money, make money, make money. But if you cannot manage it, you're not always going to be on the upside. So even with all of these mistakes that I made, because I had the basics of budgeting and saving, I still had some money saved that I was okay during the first year and some change of the recession, because of my basic background. And so that's what I leaned on while I tried to figure out my life and unpack all the mistakes that I made. But it gave me space to do so, because at first I fell into a little bit of a depression because I was like, what happened? And so I didn't really move that first year. I just kind of laid around and just looked at the ceiling and was angry and mad and sad and crying. And so finally, after a year and some change of doing that, my best friend is actually the one who woke me up, because she was like, what's going on? I didn't tell anyone because I was ashamed.
Oh, wow.
She was like, what's going on? I was like, oh my God, I have this credit card debt in my house. She was like, welcome to adulthood, girl, everybody. She was like, that's it all this time? I'm like, no, but you don't understand. She was like, we all have credit card debt. I don't know why I didn't. Sometimes when you're struggling, you think you're the only one.
Yeah.
And she was like, girl, it's the recession. I mean, we all are broke. Nobody has jobs. We're all in our 30s. We all feel like losers, basically. We're here. We're all here. I thought you killed somebody hiding out. We were like, what? And so she made me laugh just like that. And then what it did was it released me from the shame. And once I got over the shame, because what I was experiencing was not unique to me, I was able to see that there were solutions. And then I already knew what they were. I learned them at home when I lived with my parents. And so one of the first solutions I did was to move back home with my parents. And so that way I could save, and I rented out my condo so it could provide me some income. By then I was behind on my mortgage. So the company actually wouldn't take my mortgage payment anymore. They were like, even when I had enough to finally pay it, they were like, but we need all the back stuff that you owe plus the fees and this and that. I was like, well, I don't have $70,000. So you're either going to take this $1660 a month, that's how much it was, my mortgage payment, or nothing. And they were like, no, they're not going to take it. But you know what? That was such a godsend, because that $1660 was my income.
Yep.
So I was like, well, you won't take it. I know who needs it. I do. And so I think I was renting out my condo at the time. It wasn't even enough to cover actually the $1,600. It was $1,200. So that $1,200 was my money. So I got a little bit of unemployment in that $1,200. And for 2 years, after so the recession hit, I had enough to kind of keep me floating in my savings account for about a year. And then for 2 years, I lived off of my condo rent and unemployment. And so that helped me significantly to space out. So I didn't have to get my act together in 1 year. I had about three 3.5 years to figure out what am I going to do. I didn't want to go back to the classroom. So I volunteered a lot during those 3 years trying to figure out what I liked and what I wanted to do. This is why basic financial knowledge is so critical, because the money that I was getting from my condo and unemployment wasn't as much as I got as a teacher, but I downsized everything. Yep. Like, thankfully, I had bought my car in my mid-20s cash. It was like $5,000. I went to the auction and paid for it. So no car note. And then on top of that, because I didn't have any car note, my insurance was really low. So I'm like, okay, good. I didn't have to, I moved in with my parents, then my sister, and then I ended up finding a room in Newark, New Jersey, where a bunch of other women, some of which I knew just from like the broke scene, because we were all like, girl, what you doing? Nothing. So it was $500 a month. So I moved in there. So now I went, so now living is $500. We're collectively sharing groceries, most of which we all got from our parents' houses and smuggled them back into the house. And I didn't have a car note. And my student loan debt, I put it in a deferment. Okay. And my credit card bill, honestly, I was just paying the minimum. So I downsized my life completely. I did my own hair. I don't get my nails done just because, I don't know, I've always been kind of a tomboy. But if I did nails, I would have done it myself. And so I did everything. I really didn't buy much clothes. I look back, I remember really looking in my closet like, there's like riding boots and a shirt and a t-shirt here. What am I going to wear? But luckily, I had sisters. So I was like, girl, I have a place to go. Somebody have a dress for me to borrow?
Yep.
And a lot of people can't live like that, or they refuse to live like that. So what they are doing is you are actually extending your discomfort. If you are not willing to make yourself uncomfortable, like take it up a notch for maybe a couple of years, you are actually extending your current discomfort. So let's just say you have a nicer apartment, you have a car note, but you're afraid and bills are late and your credit score is not good. You are uncomfortable. But let's just say if for a year to 2 years, you were willing to bring it all the way down and move back home with your parents or a sister or get a roommate, you were willing to sell that car and get yourself a used car. And so to be a little bit more uncomfortable, you could actually do that for a shorter period of time, rebound. Because now I look at my life now, I just got some great news. Today, I was just telling my husband, I called him right before this. I said, before I tell you the great news, I want you to say I have the best wife in the world. He was like, And I told him, I said, so it's official. We're closing on our house on Monday. And that house is 5 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms. And it's a beautiful section of Newark where houses average at about $350. We're getting that house. It's a foreclosure. We're getting that house for $180.
Get it?
Yes. And so we're paying cash. And the house is currently worth about $370. So we're paying cash $180,000 from our savings account. And we're having a huge, right now we live in a small 2-bedroom apartment. And so we're going from this to this beautiful, huge house. And that doesn't even need really renovating. I just want a new kitchen and a new master bathroom. So we're going to do that. But it's move-in ready. So we can literally buy this house and resell it for $370 and make our money back plus double.
That is amazing.
And then on top of it, so now we're going to live in a house rent-free for less money than what we live in our 2-bedroom apartment for now.
Yep.
We live here because this 2-bedroom apartment is $950 a month. People are like, oh, I call it in the halfway hood. It's so this living here is it's uncomfortable. I mean, it's all right. Honestly, I'm like, whatever. I mean, to me, it doesn't bother me. I'm right across the street from the train station. Downtown is right across the street, but still a little bit halfway hood. But where we're moving to, it's beautiful. It's more like where I grew up. I grew up in the super suburbs, and we're across the street from one of the most beautiful parks in New Jersey. And I mean, but because I was willing to live in the halfway hood for 3 years and save and save and save, now, not only are we getting this house, I went to the city and I said, do you guys have any houses that, because the cities often take homes when taxes are owed.
Yep.
And so they said, yes, here's a list. And the houses were all dilapidated. I was like, oh my gosh, these houses are all terrible looking. But it was 20 houses. We drove by every single one. And the last house was the worst one. But the location was amazing because in a year, they're building a train to New York 2 blocks up. Oh, and that same train is also going to go to Newark Airport, International Airport. So that $10,000 house, do you know how much that just the land is going to be worth in 2 years?
Yep.
So we're buying that house and we're going to renovate it. And that house, we're not going to sell it. Obviously, we're going to keep it. But I'm just saying. And so I just got news today because I called them like, what's going on with the house? They're like, oh, I'm sending you the papers today. take it to your title company so we could set a closing date within probably the next 2 or 3 weeks. So in that house, we're buying cash because it's $10,000. So 3 years uncomfortable. And in 1 month, we'll have 2 properties that we're buying cash. So you know what I mean? So that's what I mean. And I share that because my husband was a maintenance man when I met him. And now he's like, so he works for the city of Newark as like a super. So it's not like, oh my gosh, we're making like buku bucks as far as like, you know, like, so he makes decent money, you know, but mainly his insurance is the bomb.com. So I said, you're not leaving until you are fully vetted. And then you can leave. And then me as the budgetnista, I was a preschool teacher. And then now I make more money as the budgetnista. So people might say like, well, you have your own business. That's why you have so much money. Peep this though. When I was making $39,000 a year and I was at 25 when I bought my house, I had saved in about 2.5 years. I had saved $40,000. So yes, I make more money now. So we're able to save faster, but I was saving then too.
Basically, yeah.
You know, so you have to adhere to those basic principles, you know? And now, like I said, so this is what we want to do. We want to get actually an apartment building since he knows, like, you know, he knows how to fix everything.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't know because of the business that he's in, he knows somebody who knows, you know?
Exactly.
So our house that we're going to live in, the $10,000 house that we're getting, and then we really want to then go on. And these are houses that we're not going to have any mortgage on. Well, the $10,000 house will likely take a mortgage to get it fixed up. It's called a 203K loan. Yep. But we want to, in a couple of years, to purchase an apartment building.
For multi-unit.
Yep. And so we're both 38 now. So by the time he's 45, he'll be fully invested at his job. And that means he can take his insurance with him and quote unquote retire. So insurance is critical. So uncomfortable. Could he quit now? Do we make enough now? Yes. But that insurance piece, like one bad thing can wipe out any wealth that you might accomplish. So we're like, no, our plan is you work there until you're 45, then you can leave, even though that's not retirement age, because we'll have, by then, I mean, we make enough now, we'll make even more then, and we won't have to pay for insurance because we'll be fully invested in your insurance plan at your job. But do you see how like patience and like taking a little less now so you can have more later? A lot of people are not willing to do that. One, because sometimes they just don't know. And two, it's not always easy. I'm not going to lie. You know, I would love to have, you know, I would love to like have had lived in a better apartment for the last 3 years. But, you know, here we are. And as a result, now we just have a nicer house.
Exactly. And you just gave so much like gems. Like I love when you said extending your own discomfort, because that's so true. And the fact that people don't think that they can sacrifice now for the bigger picture later, I think that plays a lot of to people's downfall. Like you just said, within like a hip, skop, and a jump, you have like 3 properties that you're working on your third one that you wouldn't have had if you wouldn't have waited that 3-year period.
Exactly. So I ended up losing my original condo when I was in 25. Girl, they took that bad boy. They're like, foreclosure. But that's okay though, because you know what? I'm glad they took it because I wouldn't have been able to catch up.
Yeah.
And they took it. And thankfully, right before, like President Obama had passed this law where because so many people are losing their homes, because technically, if your loan is forgiven, so when they take your house back, you owed that money, and now they're saying we're taking the house. You don't owe that money. Technically, that money that's quote unquote forgiven, you should be paying taxes on it.
Yeah.
But he put a law in place that like, and they took it just in time where I didn't have to pay taxes on that money that was forgiven. Because I have a friend of mine that owes $30,000 because her house was foreclosed upon, and they were like, "Well, you made income because that money was forgiven." Anytime that you're given money, the government wants taxes. And if money was forgiven, they consider that income earned. So you owe taxes. And so I was like, whew. So now that $300,000 that I owed, credit card debt, paid it off. That house, you know, lost it to foreclosure and it's forgiven. So it's just the student loan debt. And honestly, that I worked with a friend of mine because I used to be a teacher. She was like, girl, you can get about $20,000 worth of the student loan debt forgiven. And then the rest I'm just going to pay it off in cash. We're finally wrapping up the paperwork for that.
Awesome. So your story is definitely going to bless some people because there's so many situations that people are going through that I don't think they think that there's an out. Mm-hmm. I know finances bring shame for a lot of people, and I know I was one of them. I'm an accountant by trade, and I handle money. This is what I do. And my personal finances were like in shambles when I took a step back. And so when I found you, it was during your credit challenge, and I was like, oh, I think I want to take this challenge because I never really paid attention to my credit, to be honest. I'm from Montreal originally. So I moved here about almost 10 years ago. And my credit in Canada was good, but I never really paid attention to the credit in the US. I never really had to, I guess. And then so when I finally did, it was okay. I didn't have any negative items. And I was like, so I gave myself like an aggressive goal to increase my credit by 100 points during your challenge. And I did. And it was just basically taking the steps that I needed to take. And I think getting over the shame of having bad credit, not being on top of my personal finances was holding me back because I wasn't really looking at anything. Like, it's not going to go away, basically.
No, you're right. It's like shame is, I think, the number one reason why people don't move forward with their finances, because it's scary. And it you do feel like I ought to know.
Yeah.
You know, but the fact is that adulthood does not bring financial knowledge. It's just like, it's like adulthood does not bring the fact that you know how to speak Chinese Mandarin.
Yep.
Like, why would you know how to speak Mandarin all of a sudden because you're an adult? Like, did anyone teach you Mandarin? You know? And so we don't allow ourselves to say, well, why would I know how to do money unless someone taught me? It's not something that you just like learn just because, like, there's certain things like, you know, you have to be taught. And so if you broke your leg now, you wouldn't say, well, let me set it myself and put gauze on it or whatever else. You wouldn't be upset with yourself because you didn't know how to set your leg properly. You're like, I didn't go to medical school.
Exactly.
So, but somehow we shame ourselves about not knowing about money. But if you didn't go to school for finance or someone didn't teach you, then you're not going to know. You might know some bare basics like, you know, I guess I got to pay my bills on time. But how would you know how to budget unless someone showed you? Exactly. How would you know how to save effectively unless someone showed you? And that's why I started the Budgetnista, to take away the, like, somebody should have showed you. Well, I'll show you. And that's why largely a lot of what we do for free. I would say over 80% of what I give away, I do for free because I think financial education should be free.
I agree with that. And I also think that it just needs to be taught. Like you said, nobody showed you. And I think that responsibility should fall mainly on the parents. You grew up in a household that your parents knew. And I unfortunately didn't. My mom did an amazing job raising the 5 of us, but I don't think finances was her strong suit, and she probably wasn't taught. And I just think that if we start teaching at a younger age, it's going to just pass on to generations like it did in your household. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I'm trying to do with my children now. And because I basically now, if I learn something, I like to pass it on. And so that's where I created the podcast, because I just want to get this information out there. Because I don't think, just to bring it back to my purpose, I don't think that we as like a community have an issue with it because we are ignorant to it. I think we just weren't taught. And I think once we are taught and we can get on the same understanding, I think we will be fine. Mm-hmm. And so that's just basically my purpose of doing it. Good. And so you said you started your challenges and they're free for that purpose because you want to give people the information. So how do you come about getting the topics for your challenge? Like, do you spend the whole year dealing with it? I know the year that I found you were doing the credit challenge. Mm-hmm. And this year you were doing the net worth challenge. So are you going to follow through, and you follow through with everything that you do that whole year dealing with that certain topic?
So with the challenges, the first challenge was the fundamentals. So we covered a little bit of everything. Like week 1 was like budgeting, and then there was a debt week and a credit week and a savings week and insurance and investing. So that was like the fundamentals. But during that challenge, because it's always important to me that I teach what you request, that what you need. I did like a survey, and I said afterwards and said, okay, what else do you want? Like, what specifics of what you learned would you like to dive deep into? And so people were like, the number one request was, I want to save more. And so the next challenge was the savings challenge. And during that challenge, same thing. Now that you've learned the ins and outs of savings, what do you want to learn? Then it was the credit. And then, so that's how I came up with the challenge topics. And the challenges, the first challenge was 5 weeks. That's the fundamentals, but all of them moving forward were 3 weeks. Okay. And so the challenges go live, and we do them together collectively in January. That's when the new one comes out. And then after that, I automate it. So at any time you could retake it or take it for the first time. And the way the challenge works is you sign up for it. livewithyourchallenge.com has all of the challenges listed. Choose one. Don't choose all of them because you're going to get a daily email. Choose one because you can always go back and do the other ones later. They're all available. And then every day for the length of that challenge, you get an email that says, today is day 1. This is what the task is. And I've broken down from beginning to end what you need to do to achieve the challenge's goal. So For the savings edition, it was a challenge. The goal was for you to create a budgeting plan and a savings plan so you could save more. And so every day I give you one small task to do that walks you closer and closer. And I give you all the tools. If there's a spreadsheet that I think you should use, give it to you. If there's a calculator you should have, I give it to you. If I say call your creditors and say XYZ, I give you the script. If I say email or fax your creditor this dispute letter, I give you the letter. So there's no excuses, that you have all of the resources that you need. And because that is my gift to say, I get it. If I didn't know, step by step what to do, I might not do it. And so the preschool teacher in me, and I have my master's in education, I really have broken it down to the bare bones of like, pick up a pen, put it on a piece of paper and write this down. You don't have to know how to do anything but read, write, add, subtract. I mean, so we don't focus on like now that the net worth edition, the live version is done, like the automated version, you could just do it. It does definitely fuels the conversation for the year, but that's not the only thing, because collectively people are always talking about everything. But yeah, that definitely is a challenge for 2018, and I haven't decided what the challenge for 2019 is going to be yet. There's like two things that are kind of neck and neck, so I'm trying to like look to see like what's more pressing. It's investing or it's starting a business.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Those are going to be interesting topics. I know that I started investing through the credit challenge. Like there was something that popped up in the group, and then so I went that way. And
good.
Yeah, so it's definitely helpful. And I think the way you definitely teach it, so I think your teaching background shines through everything that you do in your academy and in your group, because you teach it and it's not difficult for people to understand. So kudos to that.
Thank you.
And so I know personally, because I follow you, I know that you've been working with the congresswoman in New Jersey to get something done in the schools there. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So there's good news and then not so good news. So I worked for 2 years. Yes, for 2 years with a friend of mine who is an assemblywoman, and she was a new assemblywoman. And she said, I want to pass some legislation, and I want it to be about education, and I want to reach out to you to see what you think. And I said, well, I already know that in the state of New Jersey, there's a law in place that's within the last 10 years that makes it mandatory for high school students to learn about financial education. I said, but honestly, the education should start before then. I know from being in the classroom that it should start as early as elementary school and middle school. So she's like, okay, I think that could be a law. So she did had her office do the research, and she said, you're right, there is no law. So we worked on writing a bill, meeting with all these assembly people and all that stuff. And so we wrote it. It was a good bill, and it has to go through like 4 sections, like 2 sections of the House. Like there's like a committee and a House committee and a Senate committee. And the last committee voted 33-0 yes. So literally Republicans and Democrats said, we want this bill. It's a good bill. Bipartisan. So the only thing left was that now, after all that, it had to go to the governor, who was Governor Christie at the time. And all he had to do was sign it. That's it. He did not. And I was like,
what does that mean now?
So when you don't sign something, it's vetoed by default. So there's some bills that were on his desk that he straight vetoed and said no. There's some bills that were on his desk when he was leaving and said, because he just recently left office.
Yeah.
And that some bills on his desk that he said yes to, and some bills he didn't say no or yes, but not saying no or not saying yes is a no.
Oh, man.
And so I was like, so we have to start from the beginning to rewrite the bill, which basically be the same, go back to the committee, go back to the House, go back to the Senate, and then hopefully bring it to this governor.
The new governor.
Who, yes, that will say yeah. But it's just so crazy. I was like, what? It's not like we're saying, hey, this is a marijuana bill, which is controversial. Teaching kids financial education is not controversial, which
it's not.
Your own party has shown that they were like, yes, this is good. I don't know why he didn't, honestly. Well, I'm glad he's gone. So, no, because honestly, it was very frustrating because it was 2 years worth of work to go down the drain because you didn't sign it.
Definitely. That definitely sounds frustrating. And it definitely sounds just like politics in general. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Like I said, I didn't understand why, because I could see if there was some pushback and, but no,
on
both
the
parties.
way there.
Yeah, but like the whole time through, it was like, yep, yeah, got it, yep. Like everyone was like, this is good. I mean, I don't, like, what's wrong?
Like I don't see an issue. And I definitely think that elementary and middle school are great ages. Like my daughter is 8 years old, and she gets excited when we talk about money and we talk about savings and things that she can do with money that she gets, because when she gets some money in birthday cards, like we started like a system, and I'm actually trying to work on a kid's book because I think that when kids get excited about something, it's easy to teach them.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
And so I definitely can see elementary and middle school picking things up. So
So, yeah. So, I mean, like I said, you live and you learn and you're just like, okay. So, but you know what the good thing is? It won't be part of his legacy, which
yeah,
would have been an awesome legacy. So it'll be part of like, someone's legacy that understands and cares about,
the
the future
importance.
of our kid, yep, of our kids. So, yeah. So back at square one with that one.
Oh, well, I will keep watching it and keep praying that it goes through.
Thank you.
So, is there anything on the horizon that you wanted to talk to the audience about so that they know what to look out for?
Well, I have an online school called the Live Richer Academy, and I created it because folks were wanting beyond basic financial education, which I give away for free under the Budgetnista. And I said, okay, but I don't know it. I'm not an accountant. I'm not insurance agent. I'm not like all of these things that they were asking questions about, but I didn't have the answers. And I said, well, Tiffany, who do you go to? Because I have I have all of these people. And so I said, well, what if I could create an online school where I would literally bring the people that help me, that help to put me and give like my net worth with me and my husband, it's 7 figures. How did we get here? With the help of this team of people. What if I could bring them in and they could teach lessons? And so that's what we did. We created the Live Richer Academy. And every week there's a live lesson with one of the experts that I personally use or know or have vetted. And then 2 to 3 times a year, we have something called an intensive, where it's like we dive deep. So you might have an expert come in and say, oh my gosh, that expert was amazing. And so students are like, I actually want a deeper class with that expert. So we ask the expert and they create a 3-week class with us. And so that happens about 3 times a year. And we're always doing little goodies and giveaways. Like sometimes like I'll go live in the group and just do a Q&A. I might talk about for example, I flew out to LA to tape a talk show called The Real. And my publicist, who's also a friend of mine, was with me. And I said, while we're here, we were like practicing for TV. Like she was like, okay, let's practice your script. And I said, why don't we do a Q&A for Academy members so they could see this is how you prep for TV. And so like little things like that, like our little bonuses that we do. Honestly, I'm really proud of the Academy. We have about 10,000 students.
I'm one of them. So.
And it's only getting better. Like, honestly, we have some new surprises coming up. I'm always trying to make the Academy better. And right now, currently, like this year, I know the Academy price will have to go up. I'm going to try to keep it as low as possible, but it's just that with things that we're getting, not up for the current members. The good thing about the Academy is if one day the Academy is $15,000 a month, which of course that's not going to happen. If you are a current member at your $9.99 a month, you will always be at $9.09 as long as you remain current. So that's our promise. Is one of the things I like to do for people that have decided early that I want to take my finances to the next level and I'm willing to invest in myself. So right now the Academy is less than $10 a month. But as we bring on new things, like Quiet as It's Kept, we're redoing the website to make it really easy to navigate. And then we're bringing in some other like goodies that I can't wait to share. And those things cost money, but we're not going to, pass that on to our current members. This will just be for new folks that come on. So I always encourage people, you better tell your friends to lock it in now, girl. Because the Academy's worth more than under $10 a month. Yeah. But I do, I keep it like that because my big thing is access. And oftentimes women, especially women of color, it's the reason why we don't know is because we don't have access to more. And so that's the purpose of the Academy. It's really to provide as much access as possible. And so we watch our numbers closely to make sure that the numbers make sense because it's still a business, But I'm excited about it because it just gets better and better. And like I just had a meeting with my lead Academy team this morning. We're so excited about the new things that we're rolling out. If you're interested in learning more about the Academy, you can certainly go to livericheracademy.com and learn more. And we call ourselves Dream Builders. So for the free, I have the Budgetnista gives everything away for free for the most part. And so the folks that benefit from that, we call them dream catchers. And when you upgrade and you become an Academy member, you upgrade and become a dream builder, which is really awesome.
Yep. I will put all of this in the show notes.
awesome. Oh, and I'm actually I heard you say you're doing a children's book. So I wrote one, but I wrote it years ago when I used to teach preschool. And it was one of the ways I would start to teach kids about money because there was nothing there for them. And I said, well, why don't I turn this? So I tweaked it and made it better. And I said, why don't I turn this into like a book to like actually put out there? So I'm excited. I have a little, I want to create a series to teach especially young girls about money. And the little character, her name is Molly Moore, M-A-L-I, Molly. I was like, put a little Africa in there, and she, doesn't get it all right. She's about 10 years old and she makes some mistakes. And the lessons are not hardcore financial because really the book is for like 3 to 6 year olds. I mean, a little older can read them, but the lessons are what I call pre-financial lessons. So they're things like community and sharing and giving and thinking about others. So these are these are lessons that you need to learn before you learn the financial lesson. So I want to lay the groundwork for your baby, for your 3-year-old, for your 4-year-old. So they see like, oh, giving, sharing, community, and then when you start to teach them more and more about money, it's laid on this foundation of why sharing some of my money is important, why giving back to my community, both financially and my time, is important.
That's awesome.
I'm excited.
Oh, I'm very excited for that. I will definitely be putting that in the show notes.
Okay.
And so I like to end by asking my guest what live financially savvy means to them.
Living financially savvy to me means that you have identified, what truly brings you joy and how you want your life to go. And you use your money as one of the tools to achieve those goals, not over-sacrificing, but just enough to achieve the goals that you set forth. So, money is really the tool. It is not the goal. And once you understand that, you're living financially savvy.
Awesome. I like that. Money is the tool, not the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate you giving me your time and dropping all your knowledge because I feel like you gave so much.
Thank you, Atia. It was fun.
It was fun. Thank you. I want to thank you for listening to the Live Financially Savvy podcast. You can hear the episode at livefinanciallysavvy.com, and you can get all the show notes at livefinanciallysavvy.com. You can follow us on Instagram and on Facebook at Live Financially Savvy. And let us know what you think. Please like, comment, and share, and rate and download wherever you listen to your podcast. I really appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.